alleged burglar being caught by police and deciding that that was a time for her to start saying nigger, nigger, and comparing black people to cockroaches. Now, this Odinet character is a judge. And before you think, well, that's in Louisiana, they've got more Klansmen per capita than anywhere else in America, keep in mind, this woman is Hispanic or half Asian. You can look at her and see, but she identifies as white naturally. So, once again, let's hear it for that black fill in the blank alliance we keep hearing so much about. These allies that the shea butter morons keep telling us we need to be looking for because they're going to help us. And before I go any farther, I think it needs to be noted that this Odinet woman is a Republican. I say that because there's always a few moron trolls, the lead paint slurping lurkers, who try to say that we should get behind the GOP when neither party is our friend. So to all you GOP operatives, keep hoping that just because we call out the Democrats' anti-black racism, that means we're going to ignore the Republicans' con game, you can get the hell out of here. Ever since the video came to light, there have been calls and demands that this Odinet woman be forced out of her position because right now all that's happened is the Louisiana Supreme Court, in a surprisingly quick decision, has put her on administrative leave without pay while they look at this matter. But the thing to remember is it's practically unheard of for the Louisiana Supreme Court to actually remove a judge from their position altogether. You got to wait until the next election in Louisiana. This is how the white supremacists do things, and they make sure that they redraw the district lines in such a way as to make themselves immune to black voters actually being able to touch them. I say that because I know I've mentioned a number of times Judge Aaron Persky. He was the corrupt judge in California who decided to let the rapist Brock Turner off the hook, and cited his age as the reason why. We all know it's because he's white. Because you don't ever see them doing that with a black defendant under any circumstances, even when they're innocent. But in Louisiana, they made up their minds, oh, there's the corrupt legislature there decided, nah, there's not going to be any recalling any judges. Besides, we need these judges to at least know that nothing's going to be able to be done about them as long as they're in office. Recall? What the heck is that? Oh, we can't allow that. So this Odinet character, she's been temporarily disqualified by the Louisiana Supreme Court, though it should be added that she claims that she asked to be temporarily resigned, so she jumped instead of waiting to be pushed. But who cares? Her son, who can also be heard on the video, got himself kicked off the LSU track and field team. So at the very least, there is, if only for the moment, a price being charged for all of this anti-black racist behavior. But like all white supremacists, this Odinet woman refuses to take any responsibility for what she's done. She instead claims that she's been taking sedatives, she says. And as a result, she has no memory, zero recollection of the video, as she put it, and the disturbing language used in it. She also claims that her son has a substance abuse problem. I guess that's the reason for his chiming in on the video, huh? But that's what she's going with. I was taking sedatives. That's the reason why I sounded like I was high as a kite. She didn't even sound drowsy. Nothing about her. She sounded like she was wide awake on New Year's Eve in the middle of the greatest party there ever was. And that's why she's saying nigger, nigger, cockroach, and all the rest of that stuff. Yeah, because she was just so sleepy. Why? She didn't know what she was doing. Now, one would think that being a lawyer, this Odinet character would have thought of a better lie than that, but then again, she's clearly an anti-black racist, and that kind of person isn't exactly known for thinking. And if a white woman blaming her racist rant on sleeping pills sounds familiar to you, it should. Roseanne Barr got called out on one of the countless racist remarks that she's always making, and she blamed it on sleeping pills. It cost her her little revival show on ABC and hopefully whatever is left of her career. She blamed her racist rant on sleeping pills. Ambien, the maker of the pills she took, issued a public statement saying that their pills do have some minor side effects, but turning you racist isn't one of them. Now, when the pharmaceutical industry sees a chance to make themselves look good and actually succeeds, that's how you know you done messed up. And lest anyone think that this Odinet woman and her little rant was some sort of happenstance, even her own neighbors pointed out that she's been playing cowboy for years. This is what her own freaking neighbors have said. Apparently, she decided that she was going to be George Zimmerman, but without the gun. She was constantly trying to set up some sort of sting operation in the neighborhood. This busybody on the bench had been spending a while deciding that she was going to leave money out in the open on her car, leave her car parked outside, make sure that there's a $20 bill or some money that's able to be seen, and hopefully somebody will take the bait. Well, as one of her neighbors put it, she's been playing cowboy as if she is the law and endangering everyone involved for years. She was ready for the event in their driveway and all but instigated it. That's what her neighbors said. So this idea of, well, she was a victim of a burglary or some other such thing, even her own neighbors say this woman's been doing everything that she can to invite something like this. She's been setting something like this up. It's one thing if trouble just so happens to find you, but in Odinet's case, she did everything that she could to put on a neon sign, put up billboards, and draw a map to her home and say, "Trouble, will you please come here?" And now that this racist pustule is being made to at least have some measure of punishment put against her and her thug son, she's trying to get some sympathy. Well, I gotta admit, it's a shame that Odinet didn't decide to do an on-camera interview. Why, she missed a perfect opportunity to give us some white woman tears. That train is never late. But instead, she decided that she was going to have her lawyer doing the talking for her, and her lawyer gave the same old boilerplate that, oh, she's just so distraught about this, and she's humiliated and embarrassed, and she's sorry for what she's done. But even so, her attorney makes it clear that whatever's happening is not going to stick with her very long because, as he put it, what happens in the long term is something she is going to think about in the weeks to come. Not the years, not the rest of her life, not this is going to stick with her, but she's going to be thinking about it in the weeks to come. Yeah, as she goes ahead and calls in all of her favors and says, I'm white, or at least I'm married to a white person. Anybody who thinks that they can get themselves a position under white supremacy, anybody who thinks they can make that claim, which is nothing more than actually a claim of allegiance. It's not a claim of ethnicity. It's just a claim of anti-black allegiance. Obviously, this Odinet woman, as she understands it, being white means being anti-black. At least that seems to be her definition of it. Now, obviously, what needs to occur next is that every black defendant who has ever been in her courtroom should have their case reviewed and thrown out. The Bar Disciplinary Committee should have been convened by now. They should have already dragged her in, and had she been black, they would have done that. But the Bar Disciplinary Committee needs to be getting together and deciding, okay, then what's the press release going to look like when we strip her of her law license? And if we lived under a system of justice rather than a system of white supremacy, that is what would happen. But alas, we live under white supremacy, and that being the case, your Bar Disciplinary Committee, they're as racist as she is. White supremacy is a group sport. It's a mutual protection racket. But they can only protect each other as long as they're actually in a position to do so. This is the reason why I keep repeating to you guys that while people are focusing on the thugs with badges being punished, and they should be, we got a long way to go on that one. I also have pointed out to you repeatedly, our work cannot and will not be done until these judges are also punished harshly as well. They go on the to-do list too. I've been saying that for the longest time. These judges are a huge part of the problem. We're going to have to start getting these guys off these benches, get them secured prison time. Something that must be made law is that judges' sentencing must be examined for evidence of bias. And how do you establish that? Very simple. Look at the race of the black defendants and see what kinds of sentences the judges hand down, and then compare it to the white defendants. And the same must go for the prosecutors as well. These are things that are crimes as far as I'm concerned. Right now, the racist punk Odinet isn't on the bench. Right now, there's been a retired judge, I believe a black one, who's been appointed to fill in while the state Supreme Court conducts an investigation. Though it's been pointed out that it can take years before that's completed. In other words, they'll be waiting to see when there's space from the headlines and they can quietly announce, okay, we found no evidence of wrongdoing. You're going after these niggers, and that's good. We just want to make sure you're on the team. We'll help you lay low till all this blows over. A little factoid, by the way, Louisiana's population is at least 1/3 black, which we all know is a vast undercount. And yet the Louisiana State Supreme Court has 7 justices and only one of them is black. The other 6 are white. I'm supposed to believe that that's some sort of coincidence. No, this is the way that the entire system has been set up to produce this result and try to freeze it in place. Racist trash like this Odinet scumbag, she doesn't act the way that she does in spite of the authorities. She acts this way because of them. She acts this way because of the racists in the state bar. She acts that way because of the racists, the obvious racists in that state Supreme Court. That's the reason why she does it. These white supremacists don't seem to understand that it's a brand new day. What they're doing here is the legislative and legal equivalent of playing chicken with the public. And I guess they're trying to see whether or not the public's going to blink. There can be no justice under these circumstances, but of course, that's the entire point. Therefore, it falls to the righteous citizenry to produce justice when none exists. White supremacists who oppress us, they're not going to give us permission to be free. There's not going to be a day where they go, oh, well, we're tired of oppressing you now. It's going to be a matter of when we have broken their backs. That's when they're going to say, okay, I think we're done. The end of white supremacy is not going to be conceded by the white supremacists. It is something that must be imposed by the will of the black grassroots. We must impose our will on these scumbags. Because justice, that is simply too important to be left to chance. The white supremacists have infested every level, nook and cranny of the government, and they're using their positions there to attack us. They have effectively weaponized the administrative apparatus against us. But here's the good news. We've got the numbers at the local level to punish these reprobates. There's a large number of us who have the ability to replace them outright. Breonna Taylor was murdered, gunned down in a hail of bullets by a gang of white supremacist thugs. The man who loved her, Kenneth Walker, he tried to defend her and defended himself, and he had every right to do so. When you have a gang of white supremacist criminals who are storming into your house trying to murder everyone within it, you have absolutely no obligation to just stand there and let them get away with it. Kenneth Walker is a free man today despite the racist DA's best efforts to try to railroad him, and the cops were mad as hell. And the only reason, though, that he's free is because there was a just and righteous man on that bench, Judge Olu Stevens. Now, around black empowerment circles, we know Olu Stevens well. He's been under perpetual attack by the white supremacists out there in Kentucky. In this case, it just so happened that the right judge was in the right place at the right time to make sure that justice, well, at least in the case of Kenneth Walker, that justice was done in this case. And that's the reason why the white supremacists out there are so hell-bent and determined that they're going to try to get him removed, trump up some charges, do something, anything. Because he refuses to let those racist scumbags get away with their usual anti-black racism. Judge Stevens understands that when gun-toting white supremacists storm into your house and murder the woman that you love, you don't just sit there and hope they don't kill you too. You have to defend yourself, and you have every right to. But Judge Olu Stevens is only one man. We need more, a lot more. But what Judge Stevens' righteous actions proved is, if you got black folks who the DAs are trying to railroad, if you got a judge who's actually going to do his job and make sure that justice is done and not white supremacist violence is done, then what happens is, yes, you can have black people whose rights are actually preserved, but that only happens when you got somebody in the room. When black people make it a point, we're not just going to sit here and decide that justice will be left up to chance. Let's hope that the same white supremacist scumbag who says that Dylan Roof's parents were the real victims, or who decides to make N-word jokes in the courtroom, or who tells the defense attorney in the murder trial of Ahmaud Arbery's killers that, well, I know you guys were excusing all the black jurors and you were doing it for racial reasons, but I'm going to let the trial proceed forward anyway. If you let those guys get on the bench and you let them stay there, then that's what you're going to get. But here's the good news. We don't have to just take it. We can actually remove these bastards. They can be touched. See, the problem right now is the white supremacists see it. Sure, there's one or two who might get called out, but the problem is it doesn't happen frequently enough where they feel that as a group, all of these racist judges need to worry that they might get punished. It doesn't happen frequently enough where as a group, they think they're going to get punished. So they're fully willing to roll the dice. After all, they've got a state bar disciplinary committee, they got state Supreme Court justices, they got an apparatus in place that they think is going to insulate them from punishment. thousands and thousands of racist judges and racist prosecutors, this Odinet creep is just a drop in the bucket. So the white supremacists, they're waiting. They're going to roll the dice and see if there's going to be a focused, concerted effort on our part to finally take them down, to take their law licenses and put these scumbags in prison. These criminals are betting that black people will never be able to summon that level of will to punish them. Well, as Michelle Odinet is finding out, we will be the judge of that. Good day, and be one. I'd like to take this opportunity to give